push or shove moment just coincidentally. But I mean, the combination of community stuff, active in independence related stuff, and having just come back from Norway, there's now the beginnings of much more interest from our neighbours really about what's going on. The Robin McAlpine's Commonweal Foundation has also put together a kind of alternative narrative which lets people, it gives people a kind of place to go. It's a bit of a home actually for people who want to develop different types of thinking. And once the white paper is out, which it now is, that's generated another sense of something tangible is there, which you can not get all the answers to, but you can certainly get the sense that there's something kind of physically there. So, yeah, I think this is an extraordinary period where every other conversation I have now seems to revolve around the referendum. But what I notice is that people don't want to have politicians talk. And this is a bad reflection really on the way politics seems to be, but it's Punch and Judy, and nobody wants that. They don't want to hear the one side because they know that the way the one side speaks sparks off the same sort of reaction from the other side, and then normal communication is frozen out, and all the kind of finer contributions people want to make based on their own experience have nowhere to go because they're just flattened by these overarching angry arguments about technical issues which require a certainty that nobody can give in life at the moment, so that's not what anyone wants to discuss. So, yep, people are well up for it. I mean, I spent kind of about an hour talking to the postie this morning, but I worry that there's not really any easy place for people to get that conversation happening other than just the sort of snatched moments. And I suspect, too, that it's not something anyone can kind of organise from the top. This is the genuine dilemma of a top-down society and a top-down nationalist movement that didn't really change when it had control of government, didn't change the direction of energy in our society quickly enough, and is now having to try to run an independence campaign from the top, and you can't do it. So I think they must hope that communities will start on their own terms to simply start running events and invite who they want, which will very possibly not be politicians.
Yeah, I think we'll have to hope that some of the other groups fill the gap. You talked about the example there with the icicles before. Can you give us just one or two more examples that you've noticed when travelling around that, okay, there would be the low-hanging fruit, and then we'll get to the big scheme just for the last question. So a couple of things that you said you would like them to start doing now. You said you're interested in what they do and not what they say. Could you give a couple of examples of things they should do right now that they could do easily?
Well, yes. The other thing would be to use the Community Empowerment Bill to give a statutory role to community councils, to give funding to them and to require elections. Currently, none of those things are true. The average budget for a community council is £400 and you have to spend it on stationery. I mean, that's laughable. They won't. I think the bill will not tackle this and will just leave community councils like they are, which is often a bunch of well-meaning people or gatekeepers sometimes who don't even need to be elected. You can just co-opt yourself onto a community council. So that could all be changed overnight. It could be attached to the Community Empowerment Bill, and we could start to have oomphy community councils who do something. And there's a number of quite simple roles that councils could devolve straight down to them with a budget. As soon as there's money and there's skin in the game, it's funny, people start to get a bit more fussy about who they elect. So that starts democracy getting a bit more frisky right at the grassroots. Secondly, I would put business rates onto sporting estates tomorrow, and I wouldn't wait for any larger package of land reform, though that's needed. That would be the first sign to everybody that things are changing. It would bring some income in, and since it would do that, it might cause people who currently don't have to think about the size of their estates to think that there may actually be parts of it they need to sell. And that would allow some of the breakup that really is necessary for people to start being able to use land, have land, and for communities, for example, to be able to get that land and get the benefits of wind turbine development or soon tidal development near the coasts. So that's the next thing I would do. And thirdly, I would start to look at the ways to allow coastal communities to gain income directly from any tidal developments that are forthcoming. because those are in train at the moment, and it's not at all clear that any of the benefits will actually come to communities at all.
And just on the last one, just to clarify, on the Constitution, what kind of process would you like to see? You said you'd like to get everyone involved as much as possible, but how do you think that could be organised with regards to making the Constitution?
Well, actually, just what I've said, once people are you can't just switch people on and off in the instrumental way that I think people are suggesting for a referendum or for anything. They need to be involved for good, in the same way as people have that warning around Christmas, puppies are not just for Christmas. Neither is democracy. Democracy is not just for the referendum. So the way to get more involvement in 2016 is to have involvement tomorrow. And the way to get involvement tomorrow is to give community councils a budget and elections, because that's the easiest way to get everybody who lives in a community, is to get something happening. Now, it may cause all sorts of upsets. Some people it won't be smooth. Hey, democracy ain't. But the longer that this is put off, the less experience anyone has of even light lifting in their lives. And actually, I think the more impediment there is towards people who haven't been given responsibility for running their community, thinking that they could run their country. So the sooner we get on with that, I think the better. And yes, there needs to be a sort of Icelandic style constitutional commission. It would be a good way to write one. The way they did it was to nominate themselves. They have 90% Facebook use in Iceland. So actually everybody's on the internet. So there was an internet-based election of, I think, 25 people who sat and wrote the Constitution. Not all of them, I think even the majority were lawyers, though there were some. And they all got, I think, 4 months off work to do that job. So that's what we'd need to do. But look, we're not at 90% internet use in Scotland. And we're a bigger country. There's only something like 400,000 Icelanders. So they do kind of know each other. They have very small municipalities, and they have 80% election turnout for those municipality elections. So they're already active citizens, if you know what I mean, in a way that we're not. And this is what worries me. We currently, it's a bit like having a body that's slightly on life support and suggesting to them that they can run for the bus. I just think we're going to need some help to G up the vital signs before you can expect people to sort of volunteer well for even the Icelandic kind of setup. Otherwise, it will just be full of lawyers.
I think that's something that makes me think that, yes, Scotland should actually listen to their own rhetoric sometimes, because from what you've been describing, yes, Scotland frequently say that the more people know about the campaign, the more people know about the issues, the more inclined they are to vote yes. But from what you're saying, I think it's even more important. The more people are involved with the democratic processes and the belief that they can do something, the more, I think even more they'll be inclined to vote yes. So I'm forced to agree. It sort of ties in with their rhetoric.
Yeah, well, I think everything in Scotland is generally unaware of how top down we are, because after all, everyone thinks their own country is normal, and you need to spend time outside it, and particularly if we're thinking that we're aiming to become a sort of modern social democracy, might it not behove people to spend some time in some modern social democracies to see how they work? Because whatever their normal is, or their average, is what we should be aiming at. And you can't just snap your fingers and do that. That's what we've done for too long in this country, produce targets that are with no game plan as to how we'll reach them, whether it's to, emissions or whatever. And that's not the way that more successful democracies work. They don't have consultation. They have citizen dialogue, which is a two-way street, and is subtly different in ways which I suspect we haven't time to discuss. But if anyone's interested, have a look on the Nordic Horizons website, because our last meeting with the mayor and the city architect of Copenhagen gave ample, tangible examples of how more successful places are running their lives and running democracy.
Okay, thanks very much, Lesley. That's been wonderful. Thank you very much for coming on.
Grand.
So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. In the next couple of weeks, we'll have a short special series in the run-up to Christmas, and also we're going to have an episode with our Christmas quiz. I don't know if it quite counts as a tradition if you've only done it twice, but if it does count, then it's becoming a tradition. As usual on the Scottish Independence podcast, the guest gets to choose the tune, and Lesley chose this one, so I'll speak to you next time.